All right, so today we're going to be talking about a couple of topics that is really going to start to shape and mold what we're going to be talking about in the next couple of videos. And so I'm just going to introduce you to conscious and subconscious thoughts. I'm going to introduce you to habit formations, and we're going to be talking about the truth and also what I'm really talking about when I'm talking about behavior or actions in the real world. And so in doing that, let's just get into this and start unpacking all of this stuff. So, first things first is that the first thing that I want to clarify is that a lot of people still think that they're in conscious control over most things that occur throughout their day. They think that they're consciously in control of the actions or the behaviors that they do in the real world. And unfortunately, that's not the case. Most of that stuff is being controlled by programs running in our subconscious mind that we have very little control over, and these are actually forming our habits in the real world. And it was Aristotle who may have said that 95% of everything that we do is a result of habit. And so you are your habits. And just to clarify this, when we're talking about morality, which is the knowledge of the objective difference between right action and wrong action, right behavior and wrong behavior, action and behavior, what that really is your habits. What I'm really talking about is your habits in the real world. Because, that 5% where you are making a conscious decision in the real world, first of all, that conscious decision in of itself is largely controlled based on your internal programming, but that only constitutes 5% of everything that's going on during the day for you. And so, where we really need to pay attention to is our habitualized actions, because, like I said, your behavior, your actions in the real world is largely 95% of it. That's your habits, okay? And so, in order to change your behavior, your actions in the real world, we have to change the way that you actually think, because how you think controls your behavior, and your behavior is your habitualized actions in the real world. And so, we could talk about this with the will you choose to do right action or will you choose to do wrong action, that idea that I brought up a couple of videos ago. Well, not very many people consciously think, like, you don't stop and think every single moment of every day, of every single day, that, you're not asking yourself that question. That question has to be internalized within you as internal programming, as a habitualized thing that your mind or that your subconscious mind does for you. And so in order for me to explain this, let's talk about these internalized programs and all of that stuff too, just simply by going back to first principles thinking, talking about the principle of mentalism that we talked about in the natural law video. So that principle, later on, further down that principle, that principle also states that your behavior, how you actually act in physical reality, is determined by how you think. And so we act the way that we do because we have certain patterns of thought embedded in our mind running like programs, which are driving our actions. And we call these types of non-reactionary actions habits. And they constitute, like I've been saying, 95% of all human behavior. And so if your habits are not getting what you want out of life, if you are not habitually getting the success that you want, then it follows that you need to change the way that you think, because our thoughts aren't the driving force behind our success. That's our emotions. It's not the driving force behind our success. It's something else, okay? It's actually, what thought is actually, is the very reality itself. And that's how we create the reality around ourselves, by changing how we think, the way that we think. So in other words, if you want to change your reality, you have to change the way that you think, because the way that you think is what creates your reality. And your current reality may not be conducive to the requirements necessary for getting what you say that you want out of life. In most cases, it's actually doing the exact opposite. And when we talk about changing the way that we think, I'm not talking about conscious thought. That's never what I've ever been talking about. When I've been talking about this thought controlling your reality and that the mind is all, I'm not talking about conscious thought. Conscious thought constitutes 5% of your processing abilities. What we've been talking about is your subconscious thought. Because, I could just prove it very easily that changing conscious thought is extraordinarily easy, okay? So just in your mind, think of a polar bear. Now, think of a basketball. You see, that's simple. That's not what we are talking about here. What we are really talking about is changing your subconscious thought, changing your programming, your if-then statements, and thus changing the why behind your behavior, resulting in new behavioral patterns. And that can't be done with mere conscious thought alone. All that conscious thought can do is prime your subconscious thoughts, is prime your subconscious mind, okay? And it does this through a process that I call consciously simulated behavioral patterns, okay? And it's a consciously repeated action. It's just simply repetition. It's just a fancy way to say repetition. I don't know why I say that. It's repetition, okay? And what that does is that it actually forms habits for you, because the subconscious, and we do this because the subconscious mind will always do whatever actions, whatever behaviors in the real world, it'll always do it better than us consciously trying to do those behaviors. All that we want our conscious mind to do is to say, hey, subconscious, this is what you need to pay attention to. This is what you need to learn to do so that you can do it so I don't have to think about it while I'm doing it, okay? And then the subconscious mind goes, okay, just show me what you want to do and repeat it over and over and over again. And over time and concentration of energy, I will learn to do that for you. And that's how that process works, okay? So the point is that we need to prime the subconscious to turn this simulated pattern. Well, I already talked about that, so let me get to the next point. We need our subconscious mind to be on board, okay? It needs to be proactive in our success. And remember, it's the conscious mind that directs the attention, but it's the subconscious mind that does the heavy lifting, okay? And let's just we're going to dive deeper into this in the next couple of videos, but we just need to look only at a fighter, a boxer, who's learning how to throw a left hook, okay? So when you're learning how to throw any punch in boxing, so presenting throwing left hook, you actually have to consciously do that action, that motion, over and over and over again. And you're consciously doing it in the beginning over and over and over again because you've never done it before. You don't even know what the process is. And over the course of doing it over and over and over again, you start to slowly be able to know what you're doing and incorporate more and more of this process into your subconscious mind, to where your subconscious is doing it for you and you're not even having to think about it and you're just doing it, boom, right? You also see this most particularly in boxing on the speed bag, because the first couple times you do the speed bag, you know, your timing's all off, it's all messy, it doesn't look good. And then over the course of just doing it day in and day out, consciously doing it day in and day out and figuring out just little keys and tricks and things here, discerning the difference between what is right and what is wrong, over time, you start hitting it properly. And then suddenly you're doing it and you're not thinking. And then suddenly you're able to do it with your eyes closed. So you're not even consciously paying attention to it, because it doesn't matter, because your subconscious is doing it for you and you're just going through the motions. Okay? Because once the subconscious mind has the program, then the program becomes multiple times more effective than when the conscious mind is directing it. This is the case for everything. This is the case for everything in your entire life. This is what we're trying to do when we're trying to game the system, learn the code to the matrix, and change the code to whatever we want it to be. And that ultimately changes our reality, because this is what's in control of our reality. And also, this includes being able to tell the truth, which is a fundamentally important thing that we've got to talk about here. And so, this is actually where truth-telling becomes fundamental for your success, because for most of us, creating a habit for success isn't about throwing a left hook. It's not about a physical action, like throwing a left hook or throwing a ball in the air or something like that. It's actually a very, it's formed in the mental realm, okay? And in order for us to actually engage in this process, your subconscious mind has to actually trust your conscious mind. There has to be a modicum of trust and reliability there. And so, in order for you to change how you think, without getting too deep into this, because we're going to talk about this in a much deeper, at a much deeper level later on, what you have to do is expose yourself to whatever thought pattern, whatever thought you want to stick into your mind, and then repeat that thought over and over and over again. Repeat that thought through your actions in the real world. Repeat that thought through the words that you speak into the real world. And, in the self-help world, in the New Age world, they call this affirmations, when you're speaking this stuff into the real world. But the problem with that, and the major issue with all that, is that many of these self-help and new agey people, they'll try to trick you and make you think that just simply saying these words over and over again will just make it so. And that's not the case, okay? It's kind of... It's almost like that's almost like what I just said. Like, you just speak the words and then it just happens. That's really not what's happening for this. This is not what is actually occurring. In order for this to work, in order for you to get affirmations to actually fundamentally work for you and to be able to utilize your words, your speaking ability to actually change the way that you think, you need to have first already formed the habit of doing or acting out the words that you say. And so what I'm saying here is that your subconscious mind needs to know that your words aren't just vibrations in the wind, that they are actually a statement of truth, of fact, okay? And it has to know that what you're saying is going to happen, that what you're saying is reality. Because every time you speak or every time you write words down pertaining to future events, that those words do come true. It's all about telling the truth, being truthful. And this means that you don't need belief. You don't need to believe that affirmations are real. You don't need to believe that what you're saying to yourself over and over and over again is actually going to come true. Because it's the truth. It will come true. Because every time you speak words out into the world, every time you write something down, it becomes reality. It becomes the truth. Okay? This is the habit that we need to form in order to get your subconscious mind working on your goals for you, working on your abstract goals for you, the stuff that's going on inside of your mind, the stuff that you need to consciously communicate to your subconscious mind that you can't do simply by performing an action over and over and over again. This is why truth-telling is so important to your success, because it's priming your subconscious mind with the program, your words create your reality. Your words create your future, which turn your words into the truth, into that which is, into your current state of affairs. It's very simple for us, and yet still some people fail at it, to express externalized objective truth. Okay? Objective truth, that which is, that which exists in the present, or that which is currently happening, or that which occurs in the current happenings of the present moment, or that which has already occurred in the past. That's the simple part. Okay? But what you can see is that the truth holds no bounds within the reality of the future. And this is where we mess ourselves up. Okay? Because the future doesn't exist yet. And while the past and the present events can be used to predict the future, conscious beings have the ability to think and speak about a future that's fully unfettered by the rigid limitations of the truth in the past and the present. And then when we're able to do that, we're able to speak about something that isn't based upon our current state of affairs. We can think about something that hasn't happened yet in our lives and speak of it as if it's going to happen because it's in the future. And so we'll talk about this. So what this allows us to do is to create the future that we desire by bringing into existence entirely new possibilities. This is creating a brand new reality for yourself. So what I'm trying to say here is that every time you say something regarding the future in particular, because this is where we trip ourselves up, obviously be truthful about that which is, that which has happened in the past. But that's the simple form of truth. Talking about the future is much more challenging. So regarding the future, when you talk about that, when you talk about something that hasn't occurred yet, that's when we have to pay particularly close attention to what we say, because that's an opportunity to create the future, create a wholly new future for yourselves. This allows you to become clairvoyant in your life. You become friggin' Nostradamus. If you're able to say words, say something that hasn't happened yet, say something truthful about something that hasn't happened yet, and then that thing actually happens in the future, okay? So what we're talking about here is deeper and more personal than just objective, external, collective truth. What we're saying is deeper than that. It really gives you the deeper meaning behind actually telling the truth, the term telling the truth. Because truth-telling really isn't about recounting the past. Truth-telling is about creating your future. It's about being authentic, reliable, and honest, true to his words, All that means is that people believe that you're faithful. They can rely on you. You're reliable. In the Hebrew scriptures, it's called emeth. Okay? It just means faithful and true. And really, when people have faith in you, all that they're saying is that they trust you. And all that that means is that they trust you solely because when you say things about things that haven't happened yet, that those things tend to happen almost every time. It's like they can count on you to do what you say that you're going to do. And really, in our day and age, that's somehow friggin' magical. All right? You do this, you become extremely useful. People are going to love you for it. They're going to like you more. Because when you say, yeah, I'm going to be there at 6 a.m., you can be there at 6 a.m. They can trust you. They don't have to worry about you. They don't have to think about you in a negative connotation. And that's pretty amazing. And so, really, there's no magic to this because we all can do this. And it's really simple. In order to do this, all that you have to do is hold yourself accountable to the words that you speak, and people are going to love you for this because you become reliable for them. In this uncertain, crazy, chaotic world of the unknown, suddenly you become this little island of certainty, of trust. And that's amazing. That sort of superpower is something that people look for years and decades within other people. And when they find it, boy, you become a linchpin. You become so important to their life simply because they can trust you. That's amazing, okay? And what this truth-telling stuff is really doing, ultimately for ourselves at the individual level, is that it's priming our subconscious mind with the right habits or programs necessary for success. And that's why we're learning it in this particular way, because just like the fighter who habituated the execution of an effective left hook because the subconscious can throw it faster, better, and more effectively, and that's why he was doing that. So too must you habituate the execution of turning your thoughts into truth. Because the subconscious will be able to do that for you faster, better, and more efficiently than the conscious mind will ever be able to do. Imagine you not having to consciously worry or think about, oh man, I can't forget to not do this, or I can't forget to do this for this person, or I have to consciously expend all of this physical and mental energy making sure that all of this stuff is happening for me. Just imagine if your subconscious mind said, oh, don't worry, I'm going to take care of all that, so you don't have to think about that stuff anymore. That's what we're talking about here. We're talking about utilizing the 95% of your mind that tends to be out of our control. We're using that as a mechanism to do the things for us, to relieve the pressure for us, so that we become, as our state of being, a truthful individual. And we do this exactly how a fighter learns how to throw a punch, by consciously doing it over and over and over again. Repetition, repetition, repetition. This is what I call consciously simulated behavior patterns. Because you're consciously simulating behavior. It's a simulation, okay? You don't consciously learn how to do things. You don't consciously learn how to throw a left hook in the fight, okay? You simulate it first, okay? When you're in the fight, that's not the time to learn how to throw a left hook. You should have known how to do that years ago, okay? So you have to simulate this behavior over and over and over again in order to create a pattern. This pattern is what we call a habit, and this habit exists within our life, okay? You're gaming the system when you're doing this, and it's awesome, and it's super easy, okay? And so get this. I know that we've beaten this horse to death in previous videos, but let's just do it one more time, okay? Because people have a tendency to forget this stuff, and it's very important, the idea of anteing up and just doing the action, okay? Because every time a fighter who's trying to consciously, break the conscious-subconscious barrier with their left hook, every time that the fighter properly throws a left hook, he gets a little bit of a hit of a dopamine, he feels good, he gets a little bit more confidence in the shot, that feels great and everything, he did it right, felt good, okay? Felt good, he gets positive emotions for that. Good job, fighter. Well, that makes him just a little bit closer to habituating that process. And so that's great. That's on the positive side. What happens if he throws the punch improperly? Well, every time the fighter improperly throws the left hook, he's punished. He's punished a lot. So first, he's punished by feeling bad because he messed up and something didn't feel right kinetically. And you know when you throw an improper left hook because it hurts. It physically hurts your body if you throw a bad left hook. And that means that you get immediate constructive criticism, immediate feedback, negative feedback telling you that you did something wrong here, okay? And so on the next punch, you have an opportunity here to simulate the situation again, redeem yourself by understanding what you did wrong on the previous punch, and then do it right the next time. Almost within a second, this is occurring because you throw it, and that's a right one, that feels good. You throw it, that's a right one, you feel good. You throw it, oh, you see that bend? Yeah, that's gonna hurt, okay? And then you know instantly, I did that wrong, take a step back and do it again, okay? And it's happening within seconds, okay? So, the point is that even though the fighter threw an improper left hook in that system, he still improved himself. Because not only did he learn what the wrong thing to do was, he quickly, so that's one wrong that he learned that he cannot afford to do in a real situation, in a real fight. So that's already been eliminated. And then he goes back and redeems himself, regains the confidence, and reproves himself that he knows what he's doing. And so he still gets closer to habituating the goal, even when he throws an improper left hook. In fact, he probably learns a little bit more. When you win, you win. When you lose, you learn. And it's no different to whether you're learning how to throw a left hook or learning how to tell the truth, okay? And we've talked about this already, but you get immediate negative emotional feedback when you fail, so you can redeem yourself and consciously correct yourself and get the job done better next time. But in order for this to work, you got to do it. You got to do it. The only time this system doesn't work is when you do nothing, okay? So when you say something that you're going to do, something about the future, this means that you got to actually do it every single time. Every time you do it, it further embeds this program, words create your reality, words create your future, into your subconscious mind. And you don't need to succeed every time you execute on the process, okay? You just need to simulate it. You just need to do it. So, if you say that you're going to make your bed in the morning, you got to actually do it. Now, did I say that you need to make your bed perfectly folded, with the 6 inches diameter of this and that, and everything's tucked in and perfect and everything? No. I just said if you say that you're going to make your bed in the morning, you do it. And that just means that you take the 4 corners, and the 4 corners line up with the 4 corners of the bed. 4 corners of the blanket, 4 corners of the bed, with the tag, hopefully, on the bottom end so it doesn't smack you in the face when you jump in the bed, and maybe your pillows on the end where your head goes. Nothing to it, okay? Just do it. Nothing to it, just do it. Didn't mean to rhyme there. Okay, so, again, if you say that you're going to create content on the internet, does it have to be perfect? Look at my videos. Does any of this look perfect to you? No. It's just about doing it, okay? Creating the habit of telling the truth when you're talking about what you're going to do in the future. Okay? It just has to get done. And don't get me wrong. Okay, so let's talk about this one too, because this is actually interacting with another individual, and this is something that feels bad, and I understand. Okay, so if you say that you're going to cook dinner for your girlfriend, right? You got to actually do it. And does it have to be a perfectly cooked 3-course meal? No, it doesn't. You just have to do it. But don't expect her to be happy about a cooked meal that's not great, okay? This is what it's like with living with people and existing in a collective. You get to interact with other individuals who have thoughts and feelings that are different from your own. Maybe you thought that your chicken was tasty. Maybe she thought it was very dry and not tasty, okay? That's her thoughts and feelings on the situation. Now, does this mean that you have a right to be butthurt because I did the thing and then I didn't get rewarded for it? No, you didn't do a good job. So it just means do it better next time. But at least you did it. And then the next time, just try to improve a little bit more. It's always about doing a little bit better than yesterday, okay? And so, try again and do it better. But the point is that due to the nature of this particularly important habit of allowing this ability, this amazing ability of us to interact with our own subconscious mind and to talk to it, to speak to it. You really have to start paying attention to what you say and take it seriously. You have to understand, we're going to talk about it in the next video, subconscious mind is paying attention to every single thing that you do. It's paying attention to your entire environment 100% of the time. It sees everything that you do, it sees everything that you fail at, and it sees everything that you quit at doing. And all that it's trying to do is, whatever you're doing, it's internalizing that and trying to help you improve with it. And that just means that if you stop doing it, then it goes, okay, that must be unimportant now, so I don't need to keep these skills up any longer, okay? And so, whatever you're paying attention to, it will improve at that simply because that's what it's trying to do. It's trying to help you at all times, right? It's trying to improve your chances for survival and success. And so we really have to start paying attention to what we say and take it seriously, because every time you say something about something that hasn't happened, whether you know it or not, whether you want to or not, you're in this game right now. You're always in this game. This is why being truthful, especially about the future events, is so particularly important. This means, on the flip side, this means maybe don't tell people that you can do things that you can't do in the future. Maybe don't predict things that you can't fulfill for them. Maybe this means telling your friend that you can't hang out with them as opposed to just not showing up or showing up an hour late or 30 minutes late. Say, I can't show up at 7:30. I can meet you at 8 though. Maybe this means, being reasonable with what you offer to your clients. Saying, I can't complete this in the allotted amount of time. Here, maybe this other person who normal people can perceive as a competitor, maybe he'd be able to do it for you. But I can't do it in that allotted amount of time for that amount of money. I think people would prefer that over somebody who says that they can and then fail to get it done in the allotted amount of time. So, further, this is also why organization, scheduling, and to-do lists are so fundamentally important and why they work, okay? Because we forget what we say during the day. Humans have a historically bad memory. And we say a lot of things during the day, okay? And what we need to do is form the habit of writing what we say that we have to do and schedules that we have to keep, writing them down somewhere, just so that we can remember them without having to remember them, because they're written down. Writing is important, okay? And that's how this works. It helps remind us what we said about the future so that we can execute on those things. So when you say a future thing that you want to do in the future, if you said that, you're going to start, even just if you said that you're going to write things down, I'm going to start writing things down when I want to do something in the future, when I need a to-do list, when I need some things to get done during the day for tomorrow, I'm going to write those things down. Then you have to start there and actually write those things down, whether in a journal or on Trello or wherever. Just make sure it's written down somewhere. And then so writing down actually becomes part of the process, because you said you were going to do it and now you're doing it. Then that's great. That's already reinforcing this habit. And then next thing you do is you actually got to, you write them down. And then you give each one a due date. You say it's got to be done by X date. And then you do it. And that's all there is to execution. And that's all there is to organization and scheduling and doing to-do lists. You just got to do it. And understand that this isn't just about doing chores and hard work and business stuff. You're trying to form the habit that words create your future. Words create your reality. So write down on your to-do list things that you actually want to do. Hanging out with your friends, going bowling, going to the movies. Schedule that stuff too. Because it doesn't matter what you're doing. You're not creating the habit of executing on chores and boring stuff. You're creating the habit that words create your reality. Words create your future. Okay? And know that this isn't coming from some wizard who is just amazing. I'm not an amazing, perfectly executing machine, all right? I do write to-do lists. I do schedule things out. I do write in a journal. I do write out my dreams, okay? But that's because I said I was going to do it. But let's look at all the places where I am imperfect, and that's fine. I got this course that I need to create for you guys that'll help explain a whole bunch of things. And I'm like a year behind on actually doing that, actually executing on that. So nobody's perfect. It's not about being perfect. It's just about being slightly better than you were yesterday. It's about taking action, because whether it's right action or wrong action, so long as it's not inaction, because so long as right and wrong action is taken, then you are learning, you are gaining experience, you are getting better, you are improving, all right? So long as you don't do nothing. And understand that it takes years of repetition, sparring, and training for a fighter to learn how to throw an automatic and deadly left hook. Likewise, it's going to take a lot of time and conscious effort to create this particular habit to the point to where it becomes automatic and deadly. I like to point out in terms of habits just how long or how far into the new year you still, when you're writing something out, when you're writing a date out, that you still write, like for example, for this year, I'm on day 13 and I still almost have a tendency to write 2019 in my dates as opposed to 2020. Okay, this stuff takes time, on average 67 days, but that's an average, and it really depends what form of habit that you're trying to formulate and create for yourself. So, bringing it all together, our habits are really what we're talking about when I've been talking about the aspect of consciousness called action. All right, we got thoughts, emotions, and action. Action is really more about our habits. Our habits are controlled by programs that are running in our subconscious that determines our very reality. And the program is the code behind the habit. So the program is the code of our reality. It's the why behind our behavior, and our behavior is the habit. In order for you to be able to consciously affect change at the programmable level, at the level of the code, in order to change the code to your reality, you have to know that the words that you speak are authentic and true, because every time you talk about the future, you execute on that future. The future is then in your control when you talk about the future, and then your subconscious mind will be able to trust these words that you speak. And at that point, we can then start to create this fundamental habit by ensuring that when we speak about the future, our words create that future by holding ourselves accountable to the words that we speak. And as usual, no one can do it for you. All you can do is make your own way in this journey into the chaos of the unknown and become this little tiny sliver of certainty, this little tiny island of certainty in this universe of uncertainty, and become very helpful and safe and useful for other people, including yourself as well, by doing what you say that you're going to do and being truthful with your words. And so that was just the tip of the iceberg. I just wanted to introduce you to a whole bunch of concepts and topics that we're going to be talking about in the next couple of videos. Habit creation, habit formation, conscious and subconscious mind, which we're going to talk about even at a deeper level in the next video, and how to interact with this stuff and mess with it and tinker with it and understand what you're getting yourself into, okay? Because it's a lot of fun, and I know that people like talking about this stuff, so I'm talking about it. And that's exciting. So I'll see you in the next video.